This happened last year at a new job. This guy, Mike, was in charge of my training. At first, he seemed like a nice guy. We'd talk about common interests, have lunch together, normal things coworkers do. Then one day, he started to overshare things from his personal life, like I hate my wife, who I knew was pregnant at the time. And if I told you I cut myself in a place that only God and I can see, would you want to know where? Now, keep in mind, I'd known this guy for all of 3 weeks when this started happening, and the most personal thing I'd ever shared was that I had been on Prozac in my first year of college, which I didn't think was a big deal because doctors prescribe it like candy anyway. This is important. You'll see why later. In the end, I just said whatever. I didn't want to piss him off because what if he started bad-mouthing me to the managers? Still, I did my best to change the subject when he went too far, which was now becoming a daily thing. I also avoided being alone with him as much as possible. That didn't stop Mike from deciding that I was now his best friend and sister. He started actually referring to me as his sister from another mother, and then just his sister, in front of other people from the office too. The first couple of times he did it, I laughed it off. But then it stopped being funny because in his mind, this was now a fact. He even tried to make the relationship official on Facebook. I'd added him along with some other people from work. Big mistake, I know. By this point, my actual biological brother was itching to have a talk with this guy. But I told him it wasn't a big deal, and I'd try to gently extricate myself from the situation. Well, gently extricating myself didn't work. I was having lunch with this other guy from work in the canteen one day. This is a guy who finished the same course I did, a different year though. So we had lots to talk about, and I really actually liked having someone around my age to talk to. Anyway, I could see Mike giving me the stink eye from across the room. He was eating alone, in a very obvious "look what you're doing to me" display. The same evening, other guy messages me on Facebook telling me that Mike's texting him over Slack about me. We use Slack at work, and some people have it on their phone for out-of-hours stuff. He shows me screenshots of the convo, and Mike is basically saying shit like, "I'll protect it to my dying breath from scum like you, and if you break a heart, I'll break you." This is some of the most cringe and disturbing stuff that I've ever read from an actual person I know in real life. The other guy rightfully asks me what the hell is going on. Did I tell Mike that we were together or something? Because if I did, he apologizes if he sent me the wrong signals, but we were most definitely not together. I'm pretty pissed by now. Not just because this is threatening one of the few friendships I have at work, but because this whole thing is fucked up all round. So I message Mike, asking him to stop threatening my friend, while also apologizing to the other guy over the misunderstanding. Mike texts back though, with something like, "I'm just looking out for you, that's what brothers do." Okay, a deep breath. This is happening. I message him telling him that he's a very good friend, emphasis on friend, but I don't need to be looked out for. Really, I don't. He comes back with, "Then I'll just protect you from the shadows," and a winky face. He says some other cringe shit about me being young and naive, which makes me a target. What? But by this point, I'm 300% done with whatever he thinks this is, so I just end up blocking him. The next morning, Mike comes in late, sits his ass down and immediately texts me on Slack, "Are you okay?" which I promptly ignore. A bit later, he gets up to go for his smoke break, and as he goes past my desk, he says,
"Hey, I slacked you. Did you see it?"
Yeah, I saw it, but I'm not doing this anymore. I pull off some generic "sorry, I'm busy" line and mind my own business. Lunch comes and goes, and the day goes by without a word from him until about 10 minutes before it's time to go home, when I get a wall of text on my Slack that basically makes me realize that what's happening in Mike's head has absolutely nothing to do with real life. Zero. Sweet fuck all. He thinks I'm lashing out because I'm hurt and angry because of trauma. I assumed that he's talking about my depressive episode from years ago. He says he'll stand by his dear friend because he made a promise to be my brother defender, and he's not going to take the easy way out and let me go just because I'm hurt. He actually wants me to take out my pain and anger on him because he can take it. I'm sitting there reading this, and all I can think is, what the fuck? Mike logs off for the day as I'm still processing all of this. I go down to the parking lot some 20 minutes later, and there he is, smoking next to his car. I ignore him as I walk past. Thank God there were other people around. And he just stands there, unmoving and staring at me as I get into my car and just drive away. This is where I started to think about talking to our manager. We have two managers, a younger guy and a woman. Let's call them Pete and Pam. I started writing this long email to both of them, and also thought about talking to the other guy to back me up. Remember, Mike had harassed him over having lunch with me. In the end, I decided not to. Mike had a kid on the way, and he was clearly in need of mental help, which he probably wasn't getting. I wasn't about to get him fired and take away his livelihood. Spoiler alert though, I did live to regret this. Eventually, things were, dare I say it, normal, or so I thought, for a while after. Sure, I caught Mike staring at me a few times, but I pretended not to notice. Then, after a few weeks of nothing, one of the other girls on our team says that she has something to tell me. Let's call her Nice Girl because she ended up helping me a couple of times after that. So Nice Girl and I go out for coffee at lunch. There's a coffee place across the street that pretty much everyone in the building goes to. She tells me Mike has been talking to other coworkers about me and my hurt, how I'm struggling with my depression, and it's so bad it's even making me push family away. Because we're practically family if Psycho says so, right? How he's been trying to help me, and it breaks his heart that I won't let him, because he cares for me so very much. This obviously made me question how many people he'd been talking to. And apparently, Nice Girl knows about at least one other person. This makes me livid. You can't just go around telling people someone else is mentally ill just to make yourself look like a saint. I mean, who does that? Now, it's definitely time to talk to the managers. I slack Pete, the younger manager, asking for a quick one-to-one, and he immediately agrees and says, Great. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you. Pam will be joining too. I just need to get her down here. Pam's on a different floor. Crap. Ah well, I guess this is really happening after all. So, we meet later the same day, and Pete starts asking how I'm getting on, if I get along with the rest of the team and so on. I have a feeling that I know where this is going, and sure as rain, he says, You know, Mike's been saying lots of good things about you, but his face isn't the face of a man who's heard good things. All the while, Pam is sitting there not really saying anything, just nodding and smiling in a way that makes me a bit uncomfortable. I'm starting to get super anxious because I'm a non-confrontational person usually, and I hate drama, but Mike crossed all the lines. Still trying to be nice though, I say, Look, I think I gave Mike the wrong impression or something, and I give them a whitewashed version of what's going on. At this point, Pam asks me, Did you ask him to stop? Well, not really, but I'd assumed that blocking him on Facebook and not engaging him on Slack or offline sends the same message, right? Pam then proceeds to give me bullshit advice, like if he starts to talk about inappropriate things, tell him you're not comfortable with this, and don't engage with him in personal circumstances or outside of work. What does that first thing even mean? They also promise that they'll assign someone else as my trainer or mentor, and they'll talk to him over spreading inappropriate rumors, which I insist again are not true. Another week goes by, and Nice Girl, myself, and another guy who's friends with her are all heading out to get coffee. As soon as we walk in the door of the place, there's fucking Mike with 2 cups of coffee, and one of them has my name on it. Thinking back, he must have heard me and Nice Girl were going out, and ran ahead while we were waiting for the third guy. He tries to give that one to me, and says something about it being just the way I like it, but my heart is racing so fast that I can't make out what it is, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have a heart attack there and then. It was probably a panic attack. But by the time I get a grip, Mike's gone, and Nice Girl is looking very concerned, asking if I'm okay and saying I look like death. We end up outside, while Nice Girl's friend is waiting in line. I'm shaking and trying not to cry at this point. She asks me what's going on, so I tell her some of the things that Mike's been doing. By the end of it, she looks disturbed and says that I should talk to the managers. And well, I already did, obviously. She says, "Well, why don't you tell them about today?" Part of my brain stupidly thinks though, but he just wanted to buy me coffee. But I can't really pretend that I'm okay with any of this anymore. As soon as we're back in the office, I go straight to Pam. Normally, I'd talk to Pete since he's our direct manager and Pam's kind of a supervising manager, but I feel more comfortable talking to a woman about this. This time, I tell Pam everything, including how Mike threatened someone else over having lunch with me and how he stares at me a lot, and he sent me a long and creepy text on Slack that proves that he's delusional. She asks to see the text, and I say I'll forward it. I don't have Slack on my phone. She asks me to forward everything else I have. Not that she doesn't believe me, but she wants to fully understand the extent of the problem. She says it with the same knowing and understanding smile from the last meeting. She also asks me, "Has he been following you outside of work?" Now, she already knows about the coffee incident, and I also tell her about the staring in the parking lot. There's another pause, and then she says, "Well, obviously we can't fire him." And my heart sinks. But apparently this isn't serious enough for them to boot him, though they can discipline him for using the company's Slack inappropriately. She asks if I'd like to transfer to another team, but I'd still have to work in the same building as the psycho, apparently. Finally, she suggests a mediation, a meeting including her, someone from HR, Mike, and me. She doesn't sound very convinced it'll do anything, and neither am I, to be honest. I'm panicking just thinking about talking to him again. Did I agree to mediation? Of course I did. Did it help? Of course it didn't. Let me just start by saying that I was super anxious throughout. I was literally shaking. I did my best to state in neutral terms that I want to have a professional relationship with Mike, and only that. And I'm not comfortable with him oversharing personal information or talking to other people about my problems, which aren't even real. Throughout this whole damn thing, he was sitting there just saying, "Yeah, okay, with this shit-eating grin on his face, like we were just playing pretend. The only time he had any other reaction was when I indirectly said that he'd been making stuff up about me. He said something like, "Well, you kinda told me that, remember?" As if that would make any of this okay. The same day, I got a Slack message from him saying, "If you wanted me to give you some space, you should have just asked. No need to go to HR about it." He wasn't sitting at his desk, but he was probably still in the building somewhere. Otherwise, I'm pretty confident I would have lost my shit then and there. I sent back something along the lines of, "Well, I'm saying it now. Please don't ever talk to me again." To which he replies, "But we work together, silly," and a winky face. This is already pretty long, so I won't detail everything else that happened. But not long after this HR mediation thing, my brother was picking me up from work one day because my car was in the shop. For a bit of background, my brother is a pretty big guy, but he's a non-violent person, even if he looks intimidating. I'm getting in the car and Mike is there too, smoking in his car and giving us the meanest, stinkiest look you can imagine from a person. I'm pretty sure that he was waiting there for me, in fact, to come out of the building. It wouldn't have been the first time either. This isn't just staring anymore either. It's a kind of I'll kill you in your sleep staring. My brother notices and asks me if that's the guy. Yeah, but just drive, okay? I say, but before I can stop him, he's already walking over there. Mike starts getting verbally aggressive as soon as he sees my brother coming. I can hear him shouting from where I'm sitting in the car, and he's getting really nasty, saying the N-word and that he's got a gun and all sorts of shit. For the record, Mike is a pasty white guy and about as far from gangster as apples are from broomsticks. And this is when I lose it. I walk over and just start screaming at him. I've never in my life let loose at someone like this, before or since. I honestly scared myself at the time. At some point, Mike just drives off while I'm in the middle of it. I was hysterical for the rest of the evening too, and I called in sick the next day because I couldn't stand the thought of being anywhere near this person again. While I was out sick, I received a text from an unsaved number saying bitch. Just that. My brother was already telling me that I should quit the job and get a restraining order against this freak because it was obvious that people in the workplace weren't going to protect me. And no job in the world was worth dealing with someone like this, right? I could stay with him and his girlfriend for a while if I was worried about money too. My mind still wasn't made up. But that same evening, I received a picture message of a man cutting. You know what they say about go down the street but don't cross the road? This was across the road, but it was really messy and bloody. I couldn't see a face in the picture, but it was painfully obvious that this was Mike fucking with me. I blocked the number and quit the job the next day. I also stayed with my brother and his girlfriend for a while, but Mike never tried to get in touch again. Or if he did, I never knew it because I blocked him across everything. That is, until last week. You know how LinkedIn has this people who looked at your profile thing, and sometimes it shows you their photo even if you don't have the paid subscription? Well, last week I saw that Mike Stalker had looked at my profile, and he's still with that company. Needless to say, I'm freaking the fuck out, especially because I'm sure LinkedIn showed him that I looked at his profile too. I started writing this as a way to keep track of everything that happened between me and Mike, because if he does or says anything, if he happens to just walk by my current workplace, or if he messages me, this time I'm going straight to the police.